Good evening, everyone. Ragewood here, back with another Godforge video. And in today's video, of course, we are reacting to the podcast. It is a Thursday after all. And today's special guest is Mtashed. Now, I don't know much about Mtashed apart from the fact that he is on the Fateless team and has his own YouTube, Twitch streaming, and from what I gather, he's a Honkai Star Rail player. So it'd be interesting to hear their perspective on the roguelike or roguelite system that's being implemented into the game. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Now, it's been a couple of episodes since we've called this out. If you have not signed up to the beta yet, it is not too late to do that. You simply visit fateless.gg, click the join beta wishlist, fill in your details, and when any info gets released about the beta, you will be notified through that email that you signed up with. Also, Fateless now have a merch store, so if you want to get hold of some swag like I am wearing right now, you can come here, you can have a shop around. You've got your Fateless gear, your bandanas, t-shirts. There's even like a little diary there now, hoodie, cups, all that good stuff. But if you would rather get yourself some Godforge gear, you can as well. You've got mouse mats, you've got your I Stand With range. So if there's a particular faction that you like, you can show the world. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. I personally got the Godforge playing mat and a Green Knight poster. We also got some phone cases for Samsungs and iPhones. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. And if you want to grab some swag and save yourself some money while doing so, you can use my link code there, Ragewood10, to save yourself 10% off at checkout. Anyway, with that out of the way, into the podcast. As always, I will leave the link to the full podcast as a pinned comment down below, so if you want to watch it without my spiel, you can. We will not be watching the entire thing today. There are just a few things that I'm going to point out for us.
I think one of the most eye-opening things was discussing that skirt. How it's like, okay, we've got the model, we've got the clothing, but it's like, well, that skirt needs its own physics, because if they step forward and they're slashing or using their staff, like their body moving would have to impact that skirt, and if you don't fix that, you're clipping through it, and it's just like, wow.
And it's all stuff that you just assume is like, oh, that's straight out the tin, it's just gonna work, you don't need to worry about that stuff. And then you see these guys like working through each of these different layers of complexity, right? So it's, you know, it's the 2D into 3D. How do we make sure we get all this modeling done right with the amount of polygons we've got? And then it's, you know, hold on a minute, you've put a skirt on this guy, he's got a cape, he's got hair, which we need to animate, like all of these things. And we've got the animators like, have you thought through this for 1 second about all of this crap I've got to now deal with? Like, it's
So it's interesting. They're talking about a skirt and a cape and a sword and some clipping. And I think actually that might be what Simon showed us the other day with the sort of cloth tool. Just going to pull that up. So this was part of the new gameplay visuals episode, and there is a person with a skirt, a cape, swinging a sword, and long hair with lots of clipping. So to me, I don't think this is actually gameplay footage, because they're talking about the cinematic when they're discussing this. So this person is obviously in the cinematic, which is really cool because we've only seen a second of it, but in that second there is someone running away from some sort of violence. There's fire and stuff everywhere, and it's going to be so cool when it eventually comes out to us in 2 weeks' time. It comes out, I think, March 17th. I think that's when GDC is in San Fran, so yeah, not long to go now.
Well, I was going to ask you this question, right? I was going to be like, are you in this normalized camp or your account camp? Because I think throughout our team, it's probably 50-50.
Really?
To the point where we're like, we probably just don't have both game modes. Like one is, you know, you go through it in this way, in this style, and it's like, this is purely normalized, like you say, like canned out the tin, everyone's going to have the same stats, and then it's down to decisions and like, you know, like that sort of meta progression that you were talking about. And then the other one is like a one-off run with your heroes, at least to start with, and then you're kind of like trying to get that godlike run with empowerment.
I think both work. Like Honkai Star Rail, it does that. It takes your gear into account, and then a lot of the bonuses they just stack on top of that, which is fine. You just have to figure out boss health and balance it that way. I think if you do with the canned characters, you maybe do it as like a goofy event where it's like intense bonuses. It's like every time Hercules attacks, it's now an AoE. Like you're completely changing the kit, and it's like this big.
Hercules Basics already an AoE. I'm 90% sure it's already an AoE. Hold on. So this isn't just a shameless plug, but yeah, attacks all enemies. God, MTash, do you not play your own games, sir? Come on. Also, side note, guys, I am in the process of slowly updating the hero pages. So rather than just that boring writing, we now have... I still need to figure out how to move these images over, but they're all the same size now. Same with the skills, you need to move them over. Links taking you to the buffs and debuffs page. And areas that they're going to perform well in. Again, this is all just filler for the time being, but slowly coming along. Anyway, back to the podcast.
So in Honkai Star Rail, they have a bit of both. So a roguelike is you lose everything. It's just a new run, essentially. A roguelite has that bit of meta progression. So you're going to get a currency that now you can use and be like, every time I start a run, I start with 100 shop currency.
That's interesting. Did not know that there was a difference between roguelike and roguelite. But there you go. Something. Every day is a school day.
Every time I do a run, I've got 10% more defense. So you are getting stronger that way. And both work. Like, honestly, both work. And with HSR, if you start on the hardest difficulty on a new account, like you just can't beat it until you start unlocking some of those bonuses.
Okay. Yeah, which is what you want. That's what the meta progression is.
Yeah.
Is for, basically, isn't it? Yeah, it gives you like long-term gameplay.
Exactly.
And it also gives you that feeling of, okay, what decisions do I think are going to impact my runs the most? And kind of like, so I've got some decision making to make as well, which again feels fun. Like that's the type of stuff that you want. And
so that's kind of one way. But the other way is I don't get any stronger, but I've unlocked new things. So I beat that boss with full HP. I now unlocked a perk that can show up in the pool where when you're at full HP, you do 35% more damage, and it's like, whoa, like this is a crazy thing. And that's another way where my characters haven't technically gotten stronger, but the options that they have are more likely to be good. And I think that for me, every roguelike that I've played that I've stuck with and enjoyed, it's taking my character and being able to do some sort of like build. So an example is in Binding of Isaac, typically you can shoot kind of one tier or like one bullet per second. But there's a thing called soy milk that it tanks your damage, but you shoot 4 bullets per second. And so it's like a machine gun. And it's like, okay, well, now if I stack that with rainbow tiers, that every single tier has a different element, and it can burn them, freeze them, slow them, all these different things. It's like, well, now I've got a build going. That feels really cool. If I can go into this roguelike with all 4 healers and still win, that is a win. That is a roguelike, in my opinion.
Well, it's doing something you can't do normally. I think that's one thing.
What I think. Yeah.
Right.
Because
that's pretty crucial.
I've got 4 healers, but I'm taking a perk that says everything you overheal does damage. And then it's like, if I stack up my healing percentage and all these different things, I can win the run with healers, or I could win the run with all melee, where you start the run with a trinket that says you get 50% lifesteal. So I don't have any healers, but if I hit you hard, I can sustain, and things like that. I think that is long-term what you want.
Like that's super important. I know this has been a very, very sort of long stretch looking at it. Okay. But yeah, roguelikes, they are fun. And because, as Shan's put, you can do things that you wouldn't normally be able to do. Now, I personally don't mind whether they use our characters or whether they are canned characters as they put them. As long as you can still draft other ones in. I think that's the important thing. This whole drafting thing sits really well with me. I know a lot of the community are looking forward to drafting heroes that perhaps they don't have. So I don't mind using my own account as long as that is still in there. I think that's the important part for me personally. I don't want to be playing a game where I'm using the same heroes. Otherwise, why would I bother? Do you know what I mean? I would just go use them in a regular boss fight. It's like Hearthstone Arena, which they do talk about in the podcast, actually, to be fair. Part of the fun of that is drafting cards for things that you don't have before. You get to play with them, test them out, see what's cool. So, yeah, I think that is an important thing to nail. And being able to do things that you can't normally do, I think, is also really important and keeps the fun alive.
Yeah.
Right. But it does take a lot of effort. And it's probably, something that, like, I don't know if you can even say, like, would you want to try to have something ready for launch, or is this like post launch, like this is a project that you're working on long term, or can't say?
I think Dan would be.
Don't leak it. I don't want to get.
Yeah, this is not a leakable type of deal. I mean, we definitely are working hard on these features, and I think that we will. Like we've said that we're gonna be doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But the timing of that, I don't know. Simon, I don't know if you've leaked this one way or the other or not.
Let's be honest. Like, we definitely want one normalized mode for launch. We want one, and we were kind of like back and forth around, should that be like the PvP type one, or should it just be like a roguelite or a roguelike? And we're kind of like toying between what would be that one feature that hits hardest when we launch. And I think because most of our player base say to us they prefer PvE instead of PvP, it feels like the PvE system would be the one that makes most sense. And PvP, honestly, for that kind of like normalized mode, we'd much rather have live gameplay rather than async. And again, that's more complicated to do and stuff, so that will probably come a bit later. But yeah, we definitely want one for launch.
You also probably want people to be much further in the game for PvP to be like, well, I know what everyone does. Right,
because otherwise you're just going in there and you're like, I just got stomped. I don't really know why.
Where if you're
I mean, the argument there is you could say the same thing about a normalized PvE mode, to be fair. If I'm jumping in against characters I've never seen on day one, there is a very high chance I'm going to get stomped in there too. But that aside, it's interesting the hesitancy to commit, I suppose, to saying that this will be in there for launch, this won't be. As Simon has mentioned there, they've said it in numerous podcasts that they want to have one for launch, and they planned on having the PvE for launch. I think it was Vex's podcast in December, I think was when it was first mentioned. And now it's like, hold on a second, it's something they want to do, but is it going to happen? Now, if it doesn't happen because of assets and various other things going on, that's understandable, completely fine with that. But I would say to them, directly, that this is something you should be trying to strive to do and make sure it's there on launch, or if not on launch, maybe like a week or two after you could probably get away with, because it's close enough to launch. Because this is one of the things that is selling your game, ultimately. So if you can do it, I would sort of highly, at least back that to get it done for launch.
I think if you can't break the game, you haven't done enough.
It's not good enough.
No, like legitimately, it's like if getting HP bonuses and like in AFK Journey, they had like, I don't know, it was called the Abyss. I can't remember what it was called, but
they're
you would go in and it was like you do like 15% more damage, 10% more HP, and they're all just really, really boring. It would never actually change your character. And so it's like, well, am I strong enough to beat that boss or not? And it didn't really matter what you chose. It was more like based on your account and how it's scaling off those percentages. But like, if you can go in and be like, every time a fight starts, the entire enemy team is frozen. Now it's like, okay, well, if I bring in a someone that can stun them or freeze them next
Go off
turn.
of freezes.
Right. They get unfrozen, then I do it. And it's like I can cheese stuff because I've played smart and I've made good decisions. I think that is the key.
Yeah, Mike, have you tried Balatro?
Yeah. Oh yeah, baby.
Yeah, because they have that. Like if you get
Balatro.
the right synergy, you can just break the game. It's
I
It's
had a
just-
run where if I played one card, it was better than like a full house. Like I would just put one card on the field, didn't matter what it was, and it's like bing, 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 all these points, and it's like I win.
I don't think I've seen that. I hadn't seen the one card. The
high card build. You have to do the high card build. It's the
I
best.
haven't done the high card build yet.
Yeah.
I've been doing all kinds of. I did a lot of pair stuff. Pair was fun for a while.
Because it's like every card left in your deck gives you a multiplier, and so like you're getting like 52 multiplier, and you like there's crazy ways you can break the game, and I would just that would be my biggest thing is like let it cook until you can do some of those things, because it's almost that power fantasy of like this character's good, but I can make them do something that is like absurd, and I understand that you can't always do that, but I think that's okay. It's this new way for you to express a power fantasy, and honestly, I think it's a way where I pulled tank legendary. It's like, God damn it. Like I have no damage dealers, but
Can I try some new characters?
I can beat the game because I can do this crazy tank build with shields where it's like blowing up the shields. And that's the first person in the world to beat the roguelike. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I think
what
that
would be
is a
fun though as
really
well though
cool
if
thing.
it didn't need to be the legendaries, right? So if it was like, oh crap, if these two legendaries are with this uncommon, and we start to get this kind of like synergy of build going, then for me that would be like the ultimate. If we've been able to design a system where pretty much you can just experiment with any type of hero, that for me is the ultimate. Whereas because then it's like, have you guys seen this? Have you guys seen this screenshot of what this guy's done? He's used one common and two epics, and he's like tripled what anything I've ever
what
done.
anybody else has ever done, right?
It definitely shouldn't be easy to achieve, and that's the thing. It almost should feel like I've got the run I was after.
You know, speaking of that, is like I think there also needs to be downside in the roguelike, penalties or corrupted artifacts where okay, that's going to give you
Right, it's like
really
it's a give
good
and take.
bonus,
Yeah.
but now you can't heal. You're not allowed to heal. So then then it changes things around. It's like okay, my shields are twice the value, but now I can never heal. So it's like you're building a team around these things. And that stuff is very, very enjoyable as well, is like that risk versus reward. And sometimes you break your run, and that's the beauty of it. It's like,
Right.
I should have
It's
done
a story.
that.
It's a story for everybody.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And you're like, God damn it. Like, why did I choose that thing? But that's part of the story and that hype moment. Or when it works and it allows you to beat something you couldn't, then it's like, oh, that was a beautiful decision. Like I got a big brain, and it's an ego booster.
What?
Yeah, 100% agree with all that. Having like corrupted artifacts or something like that, which I've seen in other games before, is really cool, and it adds more thought to it. Now, I don't know if MTash himself is... I don't know what his role is on the team, but if he seems to know a little bit about roguelikes and what makes them cool. So if he has any sort of input from what I've heard from this podcast, it's going to be great. Because everything he's saying just sort of, to me, lines up with what will be a fun experience. And remember, this is going to be the thing that isn't necessarily going to require energy. So when you're out of energy, you've got nothing to do for the day, you could just grind this over and over and over again. You might not necessarily get any real powerful rewards per se, but the ego that I cleared level 100 and no one else did, that itself is a bit of a reward. So yeah, it's important that they nail this.
Okay, I've got this meta. It's evolved. People have kind of like essentially, I don't want to say solved it, because it's going to be pretty hard to solve with hundreds of characters and tons of things, but it's like it's been solved. How long does you think it needs to be from okay, it's been solved to okay, there's new characters and there's new stuff that you can find kind of in a roguelike? Or is it just like, it should be okay to be solved and people will keep resolving it?
Okay, so just my hot take before we listen to them. I really like what Hearthstone Battlegrounds do, in that I can't remember, I think it's 2-3 months, I play a lot of Hearthstone Battlegrounds. They bring out a new feature or recycle an old one. So I think recently it was perks. Turn 4 you got a minor perk, turn 8 you got a larger perk, and that was that. And then it resets. So then it got 3 months of just usual stuff whilst they make the next one. So essentially it works out like every 6 months there's a new perk or group of things you could do. I really like how they do that, and I think that is something that they could bring into this roguelike mode.
Yeah, I mean, as the pool of characters grows, then that changes it. Every bonus, you have to start thinking like, does that change things? Does that change the meta? So I think naturally that changes it, but all of a sudden you add in nightmare relics where if something's sleeping, they get like nightmare damage. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you could make it so like all these sleep champions are all of a sudden god tier, and like it does change it up. And it could be a seasonal thing where it's like every 3 months or every 6 months, there's just like an overhaul where it's like, hey, here's a couple new bonuses that change the game. And that's what they do in HSR is like they add in, they call it like a path. And so they added in like the propagation path, which was like normal attacks. And so people that had really boosted up normal attacks or like single target could hit really hard. And then they added in one that was like, I can't remember the name, but it was all based on like using your energy and using your ultimate ability.
Okay.
And it's getting like more value. And if you kill someone with it, you get all your energy back. And so it's like anyone who's got a crazy ultimate is more valuable here. And can I funnel energy into that person to then pop off even more? And so, every time you add something like that, some person's roster just got a complete upgrade. And it's like, oh my God, now I can get to the top of the leaderboard. And I think that that's a really cool feeling of, just what I said is like, I've got all the craziest tanks and shielders in the game. All of a sudden you add these new perks in and I can make the craziest shielding.
You can make an insane build. Yeah.
Where you can't kill me. And it takes me 5 hours to the run. Like not really, but like I can push the furthest wave because you cannot kill me. And like, that's kind of a flex. Like it's
like once you hit a limit of, or a certain number of characters, there's kind of like this idea of like, there's so many options that the pool becomes almost like too complicated to really parse in your mind, if you know what I mean. Like, how are you guys feeling about a limited pool? Because that was another thing that was brought up. Like, well, what if it was like a limited, like talking about the seasonal idea, you got a limited pool of characters and maybe they're normalized, maybe they're not, whatever, but there's certain characters that just literally cannot come in. How do you feel? Are you like, oh my God, that's BS, I pulled this amazing champion and now I can't use it? Like, are you in that camp, or are you like, no, that's cool, a limited pool is.
If it's your account, I don't think you should ban things because, chances are you ban the one legendary hero that, Sean has, and then he's really down and grumpy and, all that jazz. Or you do it in a way that, if that legendary hero is banned, at the start of the run, you get a chance to draft another one instead, which is in that small pool to sort of make up for the loss. Or if you are going to ban heroes, it needs to be canned. That's the way that I see it personally.
So it just kind of depends. Is it something that you want someone to just keep theory crafting it and hammer out and just be like, this is fun, I want to keep playing it? Or is it like, this is a fun activity that we do for a few days? When a new patch launches, we grind that out when we don't have any other tasks to do, and then we move on from it. It's really going to depend, and it's definitely a big design decision on how to do that. But the fact that you're even asking these questions is good.
You know the setting of our game. So what is someone that comes to mind that we haven't leaked yet or talked about yet publicly or anything that you would be like, I really hope we get this hero in the game? And do you have like a personal favorite?
Ooh, yeah. I think I've always liked any sort of like kind of like Greek mythology type stuff because it just seems cool. Like the stories you hear about Troy and Hector and all these different things, and like I love that. I would love Achilles. I would love some sort of like Achilles where he is just this like unbelievable
So with the first comment he made about Hercules having an AoE and then asking Achilles to be in the game, you do wonder whether he sounds like he's had a busy sort of life going on at the moment, whether, and they've said it before, like, not every person in Fateless knows exactly what's going on. So, because I know Achilles is public knowledge, like, because he's on my site, I have a picture of him.
Really good.
Never deny any of this.
Yeah, so I don't know. I definitely like Achilles. I also think that it would be very cool. Is like kind of David versus Goliath, where David is some sort of like tank killer or something like that, where is able to take out bosses or is able to take out.
It's confirmed we've got giants. It's confirmed we've got giants.
There are giants.
I have to disqualify you because Achilles has been leaked already, so that's public knowledge.
Ooh,
Okay.
I wasn't sure. I didn't want to ask because if you ask, it's
Right.
like it's.
I double checked. I double checked to make sure. So that one does not qualify. MTash.
Okay.
There you go. It's funny. Like Sham, again, one of the directors, wasn't sure whether Achilles was out or not. So. Yeah, they're all doing obviously like different parts, all different cogs spinning to make this machine go. Just makes me smile. And Brad did double check. I wonder if he went to the #1 source for Godforge stuff, RageWithGaming.com. I left this bit in at the end here because I just thought it was quite funny and interesting whether they are purposefully avoiding knowing these sort of things so they get a surprise in the game, or whether they say everyone is just so busy doing different things that not everyone knows everything that's going on. Anyway, I'm going to leave it here today. The end of the podcast is Ematash doing some voice lines and things. Apparently he's going to be doing some voice acting work, and he does some pretty cool ones which you will recognize, so go check that out. And yeah, that's it from me. So thank you for watching. Take care, look after yourselves, work hard, but as always, play harder, and I'll see you in another one soon. Cheers.